Powerful Nerdcast assembles!
Stay dandy, baby. The Shie Hassaikai raid arc intensifies as Tamaki Amajiki finally gets to show off his super-powered skills in what might be the most action-packed episode of My Hero Academia Season 4 thus far. Hello, my friends, it's time to take a look at another super-powered episode of My Hero Academia, and this episode focused on Tamaki Amajiki, a character who is a member of the Big Three, along with Mirio and Nejire. And what I've always been really interested in with Tamaki is how he always came across as sort of like this dark, brooding, Sasuke Vegeta-esque character. And while he might look like that on the outside, he's nothing like that at all when it comes to his overall personality. He has an incredible quirk, which allows him to manifest all sorts of crazy abilities. Whenever he eats, he can actually sort of utilize those abilities. If he eats an octopus, he can grow tentacles. If he eats some plants, he can grow like large vines from his body. Basically, he can consume all of these amazing things, combine them all together, and transform into a chimeric beast of pure destruction. The problem is, while he does have an incredible power, he doesn't really have an incredible personality. In fact, Tamaki really beats himself up all the time. He doesn't really have any confidence whatsoever, and that's kind of strange considering that one of his best friends in the entire series and someone that he looks up to has maybe the most peppy personality of any character that I've seen from the show, and that's not even counting All Might. That's Mirio Togata, and we actually get to delve a little bit into Tamaki's backstory in this episode of where he started to learn to use his quirk for the first time, forming his friendship with Mirio, but most importantly, we get to see him go into action as he battles against 3 members of the 8 Bullets, all by himself. The 8 Bullets, of course, being the elite warriors who work under Overhaul, and they all have unique abilities, and the battle in this episode was so incredibly intense. Basically, picking up from the end of the last episode, the raid has officially begun. All of the heroes are busting into Overhaul's headquarters, and they're being met by all of his goons who are trying to stop them with just sheer force and numbers. The big heroes make their way inside, and thanks to Sir Night Eye and his foresight ability, are able to get into the very heart of the compound. However, they're immediately, quite literally, shaken up by the power of Irinaka. He's that one weird, impish-looking guy, and apparently that's not even his real form. Apparently he has this quirk which is called Mimic, where he can essentially insert his very own body and soul into pretty much any inanimate object, and he can control that. Of course, there is a limit to how much he can actually control, but when he actually uses that drug that powers himself up, he can literally go into the very foundation and walls of Overhaul's compound and just starts to basically transform all of these hallways into these twisting mazes which are constantly moving around, throwing the heroes off, and he can even open up massive chasms to try and trap all of these characters. And he initially does this to throw them up against 3 distinctive members of the 8 Bullets, and they all have really unique abilities. First and foremost, there is Toya, who seems to have the ability known as Larceny, where basically if you have an inanimate object of any kind, he can sort of just immediately take it away. So if you're a cop with a gun, you're pretty much screwed. And this also translates to Tamaki's abilities. While he can manifest these things from his body, they can actually be taken away by this ability. We also have the character of Hojo, who has the ability to manifest crystals from all over his body to use as armor, as well as to fight back and just beat the shit out of things. And creepiest of all, we have the character of Tabe, who kind of reminds me of the Scarecrow from Batman, and he has the ability to basically eat anything. He has this ability which is known as food, where he can pretty much just consume anything, any material, any object. As long as he can bite down on it, he can eat it. And that makes him an especially dangerous opponent. Of course, Tamaki, being the one that he is, incredibly heroic, decides that he's going to be the one to stay behind and fight against these 3 characters, knowing that he has the ability to do that, allowing all of the other heroes to continue to make their way and try and stop Overhaul and rescue Eri. And this is where we get the meat of the episode, where we finally get to see Tamaki go into action, and man, it is just satisfying as all hell, especially because his quirk is so unique in the way that it works. I mean, visually it looks really awesome with the giant octopus tentacles just sort of moving around like massive whips, but he can actually sort of combine a lot of these animals' abilities. So he can actually create these weird clawed octopus hands, which he can then cover with armor. He can also combine them in a lot of different ways, which gives him a pretty distinct advantage in fighting against these guys. But He's fighting against 3 members of the Shie Hassaikai, and they are incredibly powerful in the way that they actually manage to work together. A lot of the muscle comes from Hojo using his crystal abilities to just beat the shit out of Tamaki. There are some punches in this episode which just look so incredibly painful and impactful, and yes, incredibly badass, but even then Tamaki is able to block it with all of his unique abilities, creating distinctive armor all over his body. And then of course you have freaking Toya, who of course can steal all of his abilities away from him. It's not until Tabe comes in where things really start to intensify, and right before Aizawa and their team actually left, allowing Tamaki to fight, he basically took out Tabe first, knowing that he was incredibly dangerous. But when he came in and he just started like running around the room, dodging and flipping all over all the tentacles and eating them when they're in his path, he just becomes this amazingly scary and destructive force. And it really seems like Tamaki could lose here. That is, of course, until he decides to utilize some of his special abilities, such as the Kraken Force, which allows him to cover his body and face with armor, which just looks badass, guys. I just cannot describe how incredibly awesome this character is, and how his powers could have ended up being really lame, but the way that they're utilized stylistically is just so incredibly awesome. I really do love it. But the best part definitely came at the very end of the episode, when it looks like he was about to lose, where it looks like all of his abilities were stolen by Toya and Tabe was about to eat him alive. Suddenly, he's able to defend himself and even steal the power of Hojo. It's been made clear that he can, eat animal products and even like plants and stuff, but he's able to actually swallow one of his crystals, allowing him to basically steal his quirk, covering his body and sort of mixing it with his animal abilities to give him an iron-like defense, and to take all of these characters all out at once, grabbing them with a massive taloned claw covered with crystals and slamming them right into a wall. It was just such a great showcase for this character, and it was all backed up by a really solid backstory of this character who just put so much pressure on himself to be one of the very best heroes. And if it wasn't for Mirio being there, I don't think Tamaki would be the character that he is in the series right now. It was a really solid showcase for his character, and if this is just the beginning of what we're going to see from the rest of this arc, then sign me right the hell up. I am super excited. What's the rundown on this episode of My Hero Academia? This was a great episode, which was so incredibly tense, and there's a lot of other little moments that I didn't even mention. I love how you get to see Mirio actually utilizing his abilities again, being able to go even further and deeper into Overhaul's secret hideout. Another little thing that's interesting is that his actual outfit is made from fibers of his hair, so that when he utilizes his ability to permeate through objects, he's not actually going to lose his clothes. So I guess that was just sort of like a one-time joke when they introduced his character for the first time, but no, it's really clever that they were able to come up with something like that, and man, that dude must have donated a lot of freaking hair, and that must have taken a long time to make, but still, that's a really interesting detail that I thought was awesome. I loved seeing Kirishima and Deku work together at the beginning of the episode to sort of bust through the walls Hulk style at the beginning of the episode, impressing the other heroes, Fat Gum in particular, which I thought was great. And again, I at first thought it was kind of like a waste that Night Eye actually already used his quirk in order to figure out how they got into this place, but he learned so much of how they're able to infiltrate here, so it really shows how far his quirk can go and how much he can actually look into like the future when he utilizes his abilities. It's not just a single moment. He can really see everything, which is allowing them to perfectly infiltrate this place. And I mean, Tamaki, he's the star of the episode, the Sun Eater, and it was such a great battle for his character and a great delve into his overall backstory, which isn't really anything too groundbreaking in a sense, but it really worked in this episode, and they managed to not only get through it really quick and make it super effective, but of course, they also gave him an amazing battle, which was a lot of fun. The fact that he's already fought against 3 members of this 8-bullet group means we only have 5 left, so I can't wait to see who's going to be fighting who next, but I loved the abilities of those characters. I liked also the parallel of the fact that, these 3 members going up against Tamaki, they had a lot in common, with Tamaki being the new student coming into school, not making any friends, being something of a misfit who was taken in by Mirio. These 3 characters also had something similar happen to them. They were basically the scum of society, the gum that you find on the bottom of your foot. but it was Overhaul who decided to bring them in and give them a use and a purpose. Even if this purpose was simply just to be his goons, they were essentially brainwashed into thinking they truly were something important to this organization. So getting to see these two misfits, these groups fight against each other, is something that I thought was actually kind of intriguing and actually elevated the actual, thought process of the episode a little bit more outside of the fact that it's just a big, stupid, awesome superhero action show. Really, I loved this one a lot, if you can't tell from my overall hype and attitude from it. It's the type of episode that I cannot wait to watch again, and it's only got me even more hyped up to see more of the amazing battles we're going to see in the rest of the Shie Hassaikai arc. So there it is. I loved this episode. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. I loved it. You heard my thoughts about the episode. I want to get yours. Tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of this season of My Hero Academia. What did you think about this episode focusing on the character of Tamaki? Did you have any favorite moments from him? What about those 3 members of the 8 Bullets? Which one was your favorite, and what do you hope to see from the other members of that organization? Let's basically have a big discussion about this episode in the comments section below. So thank you guys for watching this review. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. If you did like this video, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to go the extra mile in supporting this channel, please make sure to check out my Patreon and my PayPal account. A little bit goes a long way. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you all next time, and as always, plus ultra, baby.